everybody, and welcome to Profiling Evil with Mike King. And I got the back office here with Skylar and the rest of the team in the back behind the wings. And tonight is choir practice. So welcome aboard. We're really excited about tonight's show. Skylar, I want to just shout out to a couple of people that have come in already. I mean, the numbers are rolling in here, but Regal Rabbit, I saw you in here really early. Oliveira. Swedish Lena, I think if I got that right, I saw in earlier. Michelle Morris and Happy Tree, Oliveira. Thanks again. I really appreciated some of your comments early on, and especially the thumbs up. Stephanie Davis. We got a lot going on, Skylar. We have been running our tails off the last week.
Yes,
what's going on your end?
Just recovering from the heat of being out on that search for a couple days, and Tyler and I almost getting capsized in a little raft. That's about it for us.
Yeah, folks, you're going to have to watch for the follow-up videos that come from the Lloyd Reese and David Jaramillo's search. There was one point when Skylar and Tyler were out on the Adventures with Purpose boat, and the Diesel Brothers, was it the Diesel Brothers boat that fired up, or was it a different one?
It was a local volunteer that we found to help with the boat.
Yeah, well, that was awesome. It covered you guys, and it was good to have you get wet there. Folks, we're going to be talking tonight about a whole bunch of different cases. Let's not waste any time. I want to bring in our special guest, Dr. Amy Salerno. And I am just so grateful that she took time tonight. I know she's been traveling. Doc, how are you?
I'm very well tonight. Just off the airplane.
Yeah, I'll tell you, you've been down in the heat and humidity, and I imagine it feels really good to get back up a little bit further north now.
It certainly does.
Well, this has been busy. I'm actually down in San Antonio, and I've been looking at a murder case down here and talking to some family members, and I cannot get over how stinking hot it is and the humidity. I think it's just about the same temperature as it is humidity level. Wow. And it for a guy who lives in a dry mountain state, it's kind of a shock to your system. But we want to just jump right in. I asked Dr. Salerno folks to come on, because I thought it would be nice to have a woman's perspective, a medicological perspective, and just like me, Amy, a life experience perspective to talk a little bit about some of the things that have been going on in some of these cases. Specifically, I thought we might talk a little bit about the Suzanne Morphew case and talk about domestic violence a little bit, some of the dynamics, and to everybody that I may have troubled a little bit with some of my statements, I thought that maybe we could also clarify a couple of things and just talk about this whole dynamic of when people get caught up in these kinds of domestic violence situations, not only physically, Amy, but I want to talk about it emotionally too. So thanks again for jumping in. I don't know, any initial thoughts as we get started, and then we'll ask the back office to maybe manage questions as they roll in and
sure.
Move forward.
Well, I just want to, ego te absolvo is the old Catholic blessing to you, Mike, to absolve you for your unfortunate word, saying that, we won't even say about Suzanne and the choice that she made to try to get herself safely out of that relationship. And, in some ways it was unfortunate, yes, that she opted to get into another relationship because that sort of clouds things. But I know your heart and I know your spirit. And I think that was just what we call a little bit of a slip of the tongue.
Yeah.
So, but I think that it's worthwhile to have invited me just to give my female perspective on issues around domestic violence, which, by the way, guys, we now no longer call domestic violence. We call it intimate partner violence. And that means it doesn't have to happen in the home. It doesn't have to happen between a married couple. It could actually happen between very good friends, that you can have intimate partner violence. So if you want to ask me some questions, or shall I kind of go over a definition, I think, of, sorry?
Go.
Yeah. No,
talk.
I think, yeah, just jump right in. I mean, so part of the concern and the questions surrounded the idea that a lot of people are questioning is there any justification for anything that happened because of any choices that Suzanne may have made with this relationship, with how she was handling things. And I want to reiterate, and I think I said it many, many times, but none of this is justification for homicide if all of the allegations are true. There just is no justification for those kinds of actions, regardless of what decisions might have been made by people who were participating in this. But let's talk a little bit about this intimate relation violence that is going on and some of the dynamics.
Well, I think, first of all, it happens way more than all of us want to admit in all of our cultures, whether it's internationally or in the United States. Intimate partner violence really is defined as a pattern of behaviors used by one partner or friend to maintain power and control over that person in an intimate relationship. And intimate does not necessarily have to mean sexual. Just to give an example, we see a lot of elders that are victims of elder abuse, and the intimate partner is the hired help, the caregiver, who sometimes will hit the elderly or take money. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a sexual relationship.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Amy. And one thing that I wanted to bring out in this whole discussion was that as we've learned more, if you think back, weeks before we ever knew about the affair that Suzanne was having, I warned everyone on the channel that as we get into this trial phase now, this is when the gloves come off and all the ugliness of both sides of the relationship come out. And that becomes really disturbing to a lot of folks to hear things and have our ideals and our thoughts kind of shot one direction or another. I keep going back to I am so focused on the elements of crimes that I have to keep reminding to people too as we talk about this. It doesn't change the elements of the crime and the fact that a murder, if all of this is true, occurred. And so as you continue on, I just want to kind of reemphasize that feeling.
Well, I think that there is a big difference between a transgression, and if you want to look at it from a faith perspective, a transgression, a sin, let's call it that, a breaking of a marital vow, and something that is done that is criminal. And I think when our emotions get going, it's very often difficult for any of us to step back and to say, wait a minute, we're talking about a criminal act, and then we're talking about a human, sort of hiccup transgression. And I don't believe any of us is in any position to mete out judgment against Suzanne for having kindled that friendship that apparently morphed into a relationship.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think we all have a tendency, and this is the challenge with life, is making appropriate decisions where we need a support system. Everyone needs a support system. And I talked a lot about this three portions of a person's life: their public persona, the thing that we all see and share with everyone, and we put our best foot forward. Then we have our private side, where we only our most intimate friends may know the goofy things that we do or the way we feel about things. And then we all have a secret side to our lives, that thing that we don't really share with others. And in this case, we know that Suzanne didn't share any of this with anyone else. This became the secret side. But part of that, Amy, that I thought would be kind of interesting to explore was that she made mention of the fact that thoughts, she was in conflict with her own faith system, where she said, I can't even divorce because of my faith system. And this is where we have to kind of remember, at least the God that I believe in also recognizes when things are bad, there's no obligations. But I don't know, what are your thoughts there?
Well, anecdotally, through the years in patients in practice, I have many patients who are people of faith, and the common theme is, I can't leave the relationship because I'm a Christian or a Catholic Christian or a Mormon, or we said Testigo de Jehová, which is the Jehovah's Witness. I really have not had that many Islamic patients or Jewish patients. It's mostly Christian patients. And the one, like my one go-to verse, so to speak, that for the past maybe 20 years that I in my office, I'll go grab my Bible and I'll open it up and I'll be like, look, this.
Amy, you muted yourself.
Oh, yeah,
accident.
This is the short and the long of it. Basically, it comes down, it's from Ephesians in the New Testament. And I read, it's about 5 sentences long, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll distill it down. That wives must submit themselves to their husband. Next sentence. Husbands must love their wives as Christ loves the church. And Christ loved the church so much, and the church is us, that he laid his life down for the church, for us. So I tell my patients, it is not, the sentence doesn't stop with, you need to be submissive and you're stuck. We need to read beyond that, and we need to see the entire spirit of what St. Paul was talking about. And that is that we must demand of our spouse that he uphold us, he uplift us, and he cherish us. Now, there is an article at the end. I don't know if you're going to, at the end, Skylar, there are a bunch of links, but there's a fabulous article, a link on the internet, and it talks about a biblical response to the abused wife. And this article will quote many Old and New Testament verses that are justification for the victim of abuse, whether it's a man or a woman, to morally extricate themselves from a marriage. The article also points out, Mike and Skylar, that by no fault of the clergy, but because we are so undertrained, whether we're police, doctors, clergy, we don't get enough training in so many different aspects of relationships and psychology, that it is very, very difficult for people to find a clergy person who is truly versed in what it means to be in a biblical marriage, but have the right and the justification to safely extricate oneself. So I hope that people that are maybe involved in the chat, and I've seen many people in the past say that they're involved in dicey relationships. And if they're a person of faith, I would really urge them. This is not a denomination. This was totally not a denominational thing. But it's the last, it's called mendingthesoul.org. And because they pull from the Old and the New Testament, I think it's very relevant to both Jewish and Christian folk alike. I wish that Suzanne had the opportunity not just to be involved in a domestic violent group for support, but to really dig deep with somebody who was well-versed, a clergy person or a lay person who was well-versed in Scripture, to help guide her to a safe place.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Salerno, I think one thing that's very important to us and why we brought you here tonight is to help us, a lot of us, and people who are in situations like this, because we know someone out there listening is in a situation like Suzanne was in, maybe not to the extent of a murder happening, but still a daily suffering. We brought you on because of your knowledge and your expertise and the resources that you have, and we want you to talk a little bit about that so that we can hopefully help somebody here, even if it's just one person, right? I think that's the whole key to why you're so important in being here is the knowledge and the resources that you have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did you want me to talk about the difference between emotional? I'm sure most people here know what is the difference between emotional domestic violence and physical domestic violence. But as I see, if I look at Suzanne from afar, I see a lot of the markers of emotional domestic violence, which can be just as powerful as being a victim of physical domestic violence. And hold on one sec, Barry.
Yeah.
Well, and I think while you're doing that, many victims would suggest that the emotional abuse is more damaging even than the scars that come from physical abuse. And I want to mention, I mean, there are a lot of comments going on in the chat room. Folks, this isn't a one-off. I mean, some of you are saying, I would never go to clergy for help, especially clergy that have never been in relationships for help. Those are all great comments, and I don't want to minimize any of that. I want to also say there are many faiths, even faiths that are, for instance, if we talked about the Catholic faith and the fact that fathers and the priest have never been in those relationships, okay, but there are many faiths that are part of the Catholic faith that have spun off a little bit, and they do have those relationships. They have experienced those relationships. There are many contemporary Christian groups that have experienced those relationships. The one thing I wanted to just say, Amy, while you're kind of getting ready to spin up here again, is that my experience has been that at least the God that I believe in expects husbands and wives or companions in relationships that they are equals and they are equal decision makers. And when one has more authority than another, in my opinion, then it's becoming a caustic kind of relationship. And those are the things that hopefully we can get better at and build upon and fix. I can't think of the number of times when my companion of now 43 years told me, you're out of line. And I had to regroup and think, yeah, I'm out of line and I got to fix that. I mean, that's what makes those relationships, regardless of if it's same sex or heterosexual, that's what makes them work, is when they are yoked together and equally strong.
Mm-hmm.
And one quick thing, sorry, Amy, before you go, I saw a question pop up saying, what are her, I guess, qualifications to discuss this topic? So please let them know some of the qualifications, so we know that we're in, I guess, good company here.
Okay, so my qualifications, number one, is my training in family medicine, which is a training I did of 4 years after 4 years of medical school, biopsychosocial model of medicine, which includes family systems, family dynamics, my training in psychiatry, and my 30 years of dealing with many, many different cultures and many, many different people who have been victims of, are we allowed to say SA? Shall I say SA? Shall I say domestic violence, where I have been the person to discover, give you an example, a 10-year-old who's had never even had her period, had any stigmata or of even being in puberty, and the mother's boyfriend had been SAing her. And when she came to me, this little girl was 21 weeks pregnant. And I had to diagnose that. I was the person that had to go to the emergency room, examine the police, write up, go to court. So I have been in hundreds, sadly, of cases where children have been victimized. And especially now in the work that I've been doing over the past 15 years with the undocumented minors from Latin America, we see many, many of these children and young people, including young men, who have been violated sexually en route from Central America over the border. I believe that those qualifications that I set out right now would put me in a fairly good position to understand the many depths and dynamics of healthy and unhealthy relationships.
Well, and I have to say, Amy, sometimes and this is why I often say, please seek out your medical or mental health provider if you're in these situations, because sometimes it's that doc who's on the front lines, that family practitioner or specialist that is the one that hears about this or recognizes. I can't tell you how many cases I responded to the hospital on where an ER doctor was the one who described that there is a problem in this home, because it wasn't going to come out from the victim or anyone involved in it. So, those of you who are in the medical profession in the trenches are the first line of defense often in getting even an acknowledgement that something like this is going on. And the numbers can be horrendous, whether it's domestic violence and you know what, I'm prepared to take the hits from YouTube saying sexual assault. I mean, I guess YouTube's kind of got used to the fact that we talk at a little higher plane, but we talk about violence, and that happens. And so I really appreciate that. And to people that are wondering, one of the reasons why I wanted Amy on tonight is because she can talk about it from a medicological standpoint, where I can only talk about it from an experiential standpoint of what I've heard victims say, what I've heard perpetrators say in these kinds of situations. And, it just boils down to this idea that anyone who is exhibiting dominance or control over others are placing people in situations of domestic violence.
Now, I will say that there are some subcultures within the Hispanic communities from very rural areas of Central and South America that I have worked with over many years. And it is almost a rite of passage that the girl and the family becomes pubertal, she is basically given to anybody in the house or to friends of the family. And that's considered a rite of passage, and it's considered something that is in some very, very backwood areas standard. And I will tell you that I have suffered professionally because I have had to report this behavior, because we're not in the middle of nowhere in the Amazon. We are in the United States, and we have to follow those laws. And I will tell you, however, that I have had in my practice over the years, medical assistants and other support staff tell me, no, you can't report it. You can't. Then we're going to ruin our relationship with the community. You're going to lose your respect in the community. And it's very difficult because for me, I have to uphold the law and I have to uphold the sanctity of every child and person's body. And I have to be honest, I did lose a cadre of patients many years ago who really hated me because I outed what was going on.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Some people are, it's okay to me to be hated if it protects a child or protects a victim in a case like that, because some people, especially children, don't know how to get out. Adults don't know how to get out. There are cases where spouses in relationships don't dare get out because they need the financial connection. There are so many dynamics in these cases that create challenge. But we could go on for days and days on this particular topic. I want to get us over. And Amy, if you got any time, I'd love you to hang around a little longer. But
I want to know, did the persons that feel that I wasn't qualified or wanted to know my qualifications, do you feel still that maybe I'm not qualified?
If they don't, it's okay, because 99.9% of them do. So we'll let the 0.1%. We'll let them think what they think. But
what a cool question, actually, Doc. I don't mind when somebody says to me, "Are you qualified to talk about investigating sexual assault or homicide or serial killers?" Or I mean, that's part of what we have become in the course of our careers. Is someone. So I'm not ever offended by someone asking me, "Well, you goofy bounder, do you even know what you're talking about?" Because the proof is either in the pudding or it isn't. But yeah, I think it's awesome that people will ask these kind of questions.
Real quick, everybody watching, we're gonna jump to an AMAA. Ask Mike and Amy anything after this, okay? If she sticks around in about 5 minutes, and we'll talk about all. So queue up your questions. We'll get as many answers as we can. Rapid fire situation. Super chats always go to the top. We make sure those are shown, and we'll talk about it. But the super chats are going to Tombstone of a Case we were just helping Adventures with Purpose on. We'll talk about that when we jump into AMAA tonight. And so Dr. Salerno, please take a few more minutes to wrap up your thoughts, and then we'll jump into letting people ask some questions.
Yeah, I want to say 3 more things. Number 1, Francesca, and I don't know if she got it to you, Skylar, sent 2 links on National Domestic Violence link that is very amazing, because it allows you to get into the link if you're a victim, and it tells you how to XX erase, so that if somebody's looking into your computer, they won't know that you did this. Did you get that link from Francesca?
Regardless, what we'll do is we'll put them in the chat.
She'll get it to you. She'll get it to you. The one thing I'm going to say is the number one thing, and I will tell you, and I'm not going to get specific, but from my own experience, I have lived through something very difficult. And the only thing that allowed me to get safely out of my situation was my mother. Because I always tell my patients, you must identify one person that's trustworthy. And I'm not talking about a new boyfriend, or, your child. You can't talk to your 20-year-old child. So in my case, I went to my mother and I laid it all out, and I was able to make my exit strategy because I had identified one person that I could trust. So I would ask everybody, just remember, I think that's the biggest thing, is because you talked earlier, Mike, about the public, what's the other one? Private, the secret.
Private and secret, yes.
And the secret, nobody sometimes you have a secret and you don't want to tell anybody because out of shame. But if you can find and identify, and in my practice, starting at age 5, we always tell, especially in adolescence, is there one person, is there an adult that you can identify that's a trusted adult that you could share anything with? And if you don't, think about somebody. So I just wanted to offer that up.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Amy, there are so many questions rolling in and out, and we have to move on, but I do think this is good. Kim Holmes, one on how do you help someone who doesn't use computers? If you have contact with them, you can help them, even if they don't have that. You can be a voice of reason to help them. You can be a voice that listens, or the one that tells them to start putting a little money aside and putting together that escape kit so that they can get away. That you can tell them about the resources that are available for family members even to come and accompany a spouse and get into protective custody while you start these processes. But I don't know, Amy, anything on that?
Okay, my niece is a social worker. She's 30 and she works with domestic violence and drug addiction. And I know for a fact that there are some of the agencies that she connects with, well, actually, and I've had this also in my practice, where we give a phone to an old phone, that we give a phone to somebody who's looking to get out of domestic violence. We can hook them up through the library on the computer. So there are a lot of resources out there for folks who aren't electronically there or who have language barriers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is the perfect segue into Ask Mike and Amy Anything right now, unless you two have some other thoughts. But I'm gonna keep this ship sailing here. So Mike, why don't you practice your short answers with telling us what this tombstone is.
So, hey, folks, we really need your help tonight. If you were paying attention last week when we were on the search for the missing boys, one thing that we committed to do at Profiling Evil is we are going to pay for a cemetery plot and a tombstone or a headstone for Lloyd Reese. We are working with the Attorney General in Utah to get him officially declared deceased. This is 36 years in coming. This family does not have the money to do this, and you were able to step up to some degree and help last week. Anything that comes in on Super Chats tonight, we're going to roll toward this headstone. Preferably send it to PayPal so we don't take the hit. And folks, we need to come up with about $2,000 more in order to pay for this entire funeral and help the family. So whatever you can do to help, please make sure you're watching the Lloyd Reese video that we posted today, and know that this case is not over. We found a license plate during the search that we haven't really talked about. We're trying to resolve whether that license plate could have been connected to this case because the boys stole a license plate, Doc, the night that they took this car to the lake, and we have to exclude that license plate. The vehicle we recovered 20 years in the water was stolen, but it was completely filled with mud. And I've been out and we've been going through that vehicle and getting all of the mud out to try to make sure there are no body parts in there. But if that thing was covered with mud in 20 years, imagine 36 years. These boys might be so far below the mud and silt, but if this plate can be tied, it might bring some relief to the family. So people, please, if you can help us tonight with donations, we just don't ask for donations, but this one is important to help this family out. We'd appreciate all your help. And I know you wanted it short, Skylar, so that's the best I could do.
So, it's profilingevil@gmail.com for the PayPal. There should be a link below or on our website. If you don't have any questions you want to ask, that's the best way. But let's get it started with Starseed. Mike, what's your opinion on the Mara Mowry case?
Man, I'm going by memory here, but if I remember right, this was a nursing student up in the Northeast, like Connecticut or New Hampshire, so it's going to require some looking into. But this is a beautiful 21-year-old Amy, dark-haired nursing student, if I remember right, that disappeared, and the case is still unsolved. And I hope I got that right. And thank you so much for that kind donation. But yeah, just one of those of the hundreds and hundreds.
So Tawny, thank you so much. I left my abuser many times. I found when I made a plan and stuck to it, I made it out. Great counsel.
Wow. And
S.
thank you
Hoffner.
for this S. Schaffner or Hoffner. Wow. Thank you so much for Lloyd Reese. Thank you.
I did see somebody, I think maybe I was misunderstood about the husbands. You have to submit the wife to the husband. And the whole point of that passage is that the husband isn't off the hook. He must cherish his wife. And that does not mean he can beat his wife or disparage his wife.
Yes.
I just wanted to make that clear.
Well, and I don't usually talk religion on this show, Amy, but
Sorry.
I had the privilege of serving in an ecclesiastic position with about 650 parishioners for nearly 8 years, and had the chance to teach. And the one thing I know is that, at least on the Christian side of the fence, God expects spouses to honor certain things and to be honorable people. And then that scripture of honor your husband can step in, but it is not just a God-given right that doesn't require responsibility.
Yep.
Well,
Jackie,
thank you, Jackie.
wow.
Thank you so much. And also Kathy Pear.
Oh, Kathy, thank you so much. You are so kind. I'm so excited that we're going to be able to help this family. And when this grave is dedicated and taken care of, we're going to make sure that there are pictures, and Thunder will speak to everyone after that grave is dedicated. So
I'm going to cut you off because we're going to start answering some questions here. Sylvie Catalier would like to know, do you think Summer was sexually abused?
Okay, I would like to say, I don't know, but I have a strong concern about it. I wanted to bring up for folks in the Summer Wells case. Has anybody heard of the expression? It's a new expression, and it's called familial trafficking. And this is very different from human trafficking. And familial trafficking means family member is the trafficker. The victim is their child. And in the area of Appalachia and in a lot of other rural areas, and I have a citation at the end, y'all can look at it, it is rampant, where the average age of the victim is 5 years of age, and the 65% of the family trafficker is the mother. And it is not often that they just send them out forever and ever, amen. What this familial trafficking phenomenon is that they enlist the 5-year-old generally for sexual acts in exchange for drugs, food, firewood, whatever. And they can be on a regular basis panned out to locals. And that is called familial trafficking. And it is rife, R-I-F-E, rife in Northeast Tennessee. And regardless of whether Summer was a victim of familial trafficking, I think it is incumbent upon us to understand the subculture and the poverty and all of the factors that go into this this epidemic. It's an epidemic.
thank you, Amy. I want to shout out. Oh, holy cow, Mama Bear! Thank you so much for that kind donation.
Let me get a couple real quick here, Mike,
Okay.
before you. We want to focus on these before we move on to your thoughts there. So, Mary Deathy Deals for his family and
Thank
gathering
you
place. Thank
so
you so
much.
much. And then, Tracy Cruz as a new member. Oh, and we got one more, but it's a question. So go ahead and finish your thoughts, and then we'll get to this next question.
Yeah. So what I want to just make sure is very clear is, again, this is another possibility, folks, and I really appreciate Dr. Salerno that because those are really important concepts. Right now, I want to just reiterate what we know, though, and that is that the sheriff has said there are no suspects in the case. Everyone is a suspect in the case. They have not declared it a abduction. They have not declared this a murder scene. They have declared it a missing child. We don't know if it's an accident or if it is actually a crime. So, folks, just keep in mind as we think about all these possibilities, right now there's nothing to support that in Summer's case that is the case, including sexual abuse. There is nothing to support an allegation like that. There are allegations of predisposition in other cases, not in this case.
Right. No, I hope that I made myself understood. I don't know, but I do know that we need to learn more about familial trafficking as part of our understanding.
Yeah. And,
So,
Skyler, I wanted to shout out to Jane Brockhausen send a payment in on
yeah, I was
PayPal.
just getting to those.
Oh, were you going to say those?
Yeah. So I have those pulled up. So
Mark
Thigpen, Shelly Thompson, and yes, Jane Brockhausen. Thank you so much for your PayPal donations. This is super exciting for us.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to keep this rolling, everybody. We're probably going to go over. Amy, please, if you got to take off. We won't be offended, but while questions are coming, we like to stay and answer them.
Sure.
Michelle Morris would like to know, Dr. Amy, will you discuss why the most dangerous time for a victim is when she tries to leave? And we want to spend time on these questions, but we also want to get to as many as we can, both of you. I'm looking at both of you here.
Okay. All right. I'm very verbose. Okay. Basically, again, it comes down to power and control. Think about power and control. So when a person, woman or man, who's the victim, decides they're going to grab their power and they're going to empower themselves to exit, it enrages the person who wants to maintain the power and the control. And that is why we recommend, of course, this trusted friend or mother or whatever, and we recommend that the person who is the victim take leave, extricate themselves at a time when the victimizer is not around, when he or she is at work, on a vacation, golfing, whatever. That is when you should leave.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It has to be orchestrated. It has to be planned when it's time, unless it is a period of violence, and get yourself out. And I've said this so many times, Amy, these things do not get better. It really does require incredible intervention in order to fix these kind of family dynamics.
Laura Steele would like to know, do you think if Summer will end up being a cold case?
Boy, that's a tough one. We'll have to wait and see. The sheriff says he still has leads that he's following. We have to believe that there are things in their quiver that they're not sharing. And sometimes it's just a matter of waiting long enough. You think you know what happened, but you got to have the pieces. Again, I talk about elements of crime. You got to have all the elements in order to go to trial. So that's a tough one.
Perfect. And we had another PayPal come in from Kristen. Thank you so much, Kristen.
Oh, thank you.
So Mary Deathy Deals would like to know, where can we read more about familial trafficking?
On my page of citations. And I've got a page of citations and I believe it is the second one. Face it abuse, familial sex trafficking, victims hiding in plain sight. But I think I gave all of these citations. Perhaps we can put them somewhere on your.
We'll put them in the description.
Yeah. But it's a great article. It's a super duper article. Thank you for asking.
Great. How
am I doing with my short answers?
It's perfect. I put them. I put the links in the chat, and then it'll be down below as well. Jean-Marc Pagan Owl. Most dangerous police calls are domestic. Help from AWB for grave marker. Oh, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jean-Marc.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to say that the average, and you can correct me, in the United States, the average police training is something like 600 hours in boot camp. And there's an article recently that I can send you if you're interested, Mike, that compared 85 other Western countries and their police training, and we're like number 83 in terms of the amount of time that we train our police officers. And we can do better. And most of the other that are higher up on the top of the list do a lot more training with domestic violence and mental health. Do you want the article?
Oh, sure. You're with this being choir practice, you're singing to the choir, right? I remarked at one point, Amy, I don't know if you're aware of this, it actually takes almost 3 times the number of training hours to be a barber than to be a police officer and be handed a weapon and
right?
to take human life.
Right?
And, it is a crazy system. This is part of in this kind of reimagining law enforcement that is actually good, to start to get medical and mental health personnel involved earlier on and allow law enforcement to be enforcement like they need to be. But it's going to be an interesting mix, and it's going to cost taxpayers money, whether they like it or not, if they want a better system.
Great.
Right. That article's fabulous. I'm going to send it to you, Mike.
We'll put it in the description. So Mother Hen Protector, thank you for the 5. And then real quick, back to PayPal. We have Tina K, Karen K, and Karen A with donations. Thank you all so much.
Oh, thank you so much, folks.
Michelle Leonardo would like to know, Amy, in your opinion, are abusers narcissistic, and why?
Okay, so I think some abusers are narcissistic, but not all abusers are. I mean, I think that there are abusers that are antisocial personality disorder, that are brought up in a very chaotic home where they see violence and then they repeat violence. But those that are malignant narcissists are very dangerous, because, and Mike could probably speak to this as well, the malignant narcissist is so focused on his own ego that anything that happens that doesn't build him up is what we call a narcissistic blow to his ego. So in many cases of domestic violence with a malignant narcissist, the individual that wants to leave, the malignant narcissist would rather murder and do, is it called filicide? Familial side? You know, when they kill the whole family. Because in that sense, that malignant narcissist says, if I can't have her and my kids all to myself because they're my property, I'm going to destroy them. And so, in my opinion, the most dangerous abuser is a malignant narcissist.
So, why? Oh, hold on. Sorry, we're missing some here. Why Wyoming native? Send us a $10 super sticker.
Thank you.
Annalise, just wanted to say thank you for this info. So
Thanks,
important.
Annalise.
Thank you. Laura Redman, there are so many Native American children missing. Can you address that?
Yeah, we should talk about that in the show. Thanks, Laura, and we will. There are the indigenous people in every country suffer at a higher rate than in other areas, and maybe we can talk about that. But it also is very poverty-based too, and we should probably talk about that. Thank you.
That's just, I know that Chris has a charism, so to speak, Chris McDonough, for the issues of murder on the reservations that are in high numbers. And I just want to also say that my daughter, who is a Maya Indian from Latin America and is studying that whole culture and is totally into true crime, has a charism for trying to understand why indigenous children and young adults are at such high risk.
Maybe we'll get the chief of police of the Ute tribe to get on a show with us sometime and talk about that. Okay, Lori Deathridge, Dr. Pepper Supply. I'm a pepper pusher. If you don't mind, Lori, I think we might send this to the Tombstone Fund tonight, if that's okay with you.
We're going to do that. Yep, thank you.
And then checking convictions. Thank you for caring about abuse victims. Never believed there was so many people that are being. Never believe there are so many people that are suffering from abuse. Probably my whole life, abusers make you feel like you are worthless. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Checking convictions.
So let's jump to another question here. Toots. Hypothetically speaking, if Summer is found alive, would Ellie place her back in the home with Dawn and Candace? What with all of the info that has been revealed about Dawn's SA since her disappearance?
So I think it's important to keep in mind we don't understand or know why the boys were removed from the home. That would be the first and probably the primary factor in that decision if it's decided that the parents aren't involved in the disappearance. Certainly she would be returned home if there's nothing to indicate mom and dad were involved, but they have to solve that particular piece of the puzzle. Also, folks, I just want to warn you that even with the things that we've learned about Dawn's background, the question becomes, are they tied to the children in the home? Are they specific? Are they factual versus allegation or domestic violence charges that were later withdrawn? That would be a really dangerous question from my perspective to answer definitively. This is what should happen.
Yeah.
Okay, may I speak into that?
Please do.
I agree with you, Mike. I think one needs to say that there are two separate entities going on. Something that may or may not have happened with Don 40 years ago may or may not be related to the way he manages his children currently. But I think we can't link the two at this point. I think It would be rather dangerous. Of concern to me as a parent and as a physician is the sleeping arrangements of Summer. And I will say that there is a whole movement in this country called the family bed. And I even did the family bed for a while with my children when they were very young. And many people subscribe to the family bed, but it is for a short period of time. It is not 5 years. And it is not the child squished in between both parents. Generally, with the family bed, the recommendation that we make is that the baby or the child is on, that there's a, at the end of the side of with the mother, and then there's a sort of a gate, an infant gate that would protect the baby from falling, or the child from falling off. We do not recommend a family bed with a child between a man and the wife. And I find that very concerning. I think the other piece is if everything came out that they were completely exonerated and Summer could come back to the home, I would propose that they have significant amount of parenting classes, that they have a lot of support to try to help them have a less chaotic life, and to help to armor, so to speak, the parents with healthier parenting skills.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you.
Jumping back to PayPal, thank you, Janie Z, Sabrina F, and Pamela H. This is fantastic, everybody. And then Moonlight View. Let's we're starting to lose some of the super chats coming through. Their chat's going too fast, so let's keep answers as short as we can so we don't lose them. Mike, what can someone do when a family member is in a fundamental church that does not believe in doctors and they keep losing children needlessly?
Yeah, so that's a real challenge, because in these closed societies, when there is no outside influence, it's easy to get away with that kind of stuff. So transparency is the key. If you're aware of something, reach out to public safety, reach out to community resources like Child Protective Services, and keep ringing the bell, because if they are in a closed society, it's very, very difficult to get information out.
What do you mean? I'm sorry, but what do they mean by losing children needlessly?
Probably not getting medical attention and kids passing away from it.
Well, quite frankly, in Colorado City, for instance, the horror stories, Amy, where children were dying, and because there were home births, there was no accountability. It was really easy to have some things disappear. Now, those are ghost stories. We were never able to prove some of those allegations, but it makes good sense to really raise the flag on that. Thank you for that.
And thank you, Rebecca. RAIN.org, the nation's largest anti-sexual violence organization.
Thank you.
Cheryl Coffin, 911 dispatcher. When giving old phones without a carrier to victims, are they being told they can call 911, but we may not be able to plot their location?
So you can always plot a 911 call based on triangulation, but the newer phones will actually have the device location as a secondary. They call it a rebid, where they can collect that information. But the beauty of that phone program is that the people that cannot afford a phone can be given a phone for an emergency call.
Right. And for those of you with phones, a lot of emergency dispatch centers, 911 centers are starting to use text to 911. So you can actually text 911 versus make a phone call. So that could be a very helpful thing to somebody, hopefully. Jody Hutchinson, Mike, thank you, Jody. Mike, do you think this new lawyer in the B.O.L.O case is going to help? Here's a nice change of pace of what we're talking about.
So if she's charged with capital murder, then the new lawyer will help, because that's what the expertise of the new lawyer is. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Her court date was just moved. We haven't heard what the new one is, but she's coming up on her 90-day evaluation. So we'll see what happens there. But thanks, Jody.
Great. Oh, lost my thing here. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's get back to some questions that are sitting in the chat. We're all caught up on super chats for a moment. Christy Zayak, in your opinion, do you find abusers are repeating a pattern that they either witnessed or were a victim of?
You want to take that?
I'll let you take a stab at that, and then I'll give my opinion.
Oh, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that abusers are repeating a pattern, and the pattern can be broken if there's an intervention and a willingness on the part of the person to say, I don't want to repeat this. And I've had many patients say, I'm afraid to hold my new baby because my father was so mean to me, and I feel, what if I get ragey or whatever? And so then that person really understands what their risks are, and they want help, and then they can be helped.
Yeah. So if you go back to think comments I've made on this issue from the Deceived book and the Zion Society, investigation. One thing that I spoke about in the courts 30 years ago was I pray that the children that we are weeping over today aren't the predators that we want in prison tomorrow. My personal opinion is that boys are at a greater risk of this kind of behavior than girls when they're victimized. But it seems to play out often, but it is not the case always. In the Zion Society case, thousands of counts of rape and sexual assault, and the victims that I've been able to reach after 30 years have not experienced those same kinds of dynamics. That said, they all have had problems with being a helicopter parent, with not wanting children because of those fears. So these are long-lasting challenges.
Thank you both. Real quick, everybody who's just jumping in and seeing this donate button roll across the bottom of the screen, we're not trying to feed our families here with this. This is for a tombstone of a case that we helped Adventures with Purpose of a boy that went missing 36 years ago, right? And we tried attempting to locate the vehicle underwater. And anyway, we're trying to give the family some closure by getting them a burial plot and a tombstone that they can go visit. Body or not, it's still something that every family deserves. So that's what this donate is for. All the super chats as well will be going to that tonight so that we can get this for that family. Let's see. Oh, I'm not going to attempt that name. Sorry. Aotearoa Aroha. That was pretty good. Is there any statistics studies done where a teenage boy, a young child, doesn't offend as an adult? Okay. Does that
teenage boy, a young child. Okay. I cannot give you a study, but I will tell you that I had an incident of an adorable boy, who was actually prepubescent, and he SA'd his cousin. And he admitted it to me. And he was weeping. And of course, I had to call the police. And the police came, and it was really rather funny in the sense that they imagined that this boy was going to be 6 feet tall and already pubescent, right? This kid was probably 4'9" and 70 pounds. And so the police came in, guns a-blazing, into my office, and where is this kid? Where is this kid? And I said, here he is. And they were like, that's the kid? And I said, yes, it is. And what ended up happening was that, of course, they had to take him down. They had to book him. He gave a testimony of what he'd done. But thank God that what they decided, law enforcement decided, was not to put him into some sort of juvie thing, but to get him intense psychotherapy and counseling and support, so that he would not go on to offend as an adult. So I don't actually know what the outcome of that was, but I think that when you have very young offenders, especially when they're rather prepubescent, the move these days is to try to understand where did the roots of where this came from. Had this child been abused? So, but I have no studies.
Interesting.
Just an anecdote.
All right, Shelly, we're at for the tombstone. So the tombstone, as you can see below, profilingevil.com/donate. That's the best way to do it, or PayPal, profilingevil@gmail.com, or all super chats will also be used for that. And while we're talking about PayPal, thank you to Janice N, Ann M, Antoinette B, and Karen B for your kind donations for that. We're really excited, and we'll make sure everyone gets to see what the Profiling Evil family got for this family.
Are you going to give like a summary at the end?
Tyler? Yeah, Tyler says he's got it. So we'll get it. The Amy show. There
you go, Amy.
Get there.
I don't know about that.
We're going to get there. Don't you worry. We're not letting her off the hook that easy.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Okay, let's find. So we're caught up on super chat. So everyone get your questions in while we're scanning for questions here.
Can I say that I see a question?
Go for it.
Okay, so Diana Simmons at 8:49 p.m. said, with familial trafficking, is it usually one parent or both are knowing? From what I've read, it is usually one parent, and 65% of the time it's the mother. I don't understand the psychology. I have to dig deeper on that one.
Interesting. Maui Swift, thank you so much.
Thank you, Maui Swift.
Donation.
Awesome.
Let's see here. Not a whole lot of questions coming in. Okay, here we go. Brenan Tube. My ex-husband is still controlling / verbally abusive 7 years after divorce. My 12-year-old son has shown some of these same behaviors toward me. I do not want my son to be like his dad. How can I prevent this?
Counseling, family counseling, where a certified family therapist is able to clearly draw boundaries with that father in front of the mother and the son to say these behaviors are inappropriate. But it must, I believe, happen with a certified family therapist.
Thanks, Amy. Thank you, Christina Snap, for that very kind donation. Here's a good question. A. Bielstein, how did you and Dr. Amy meet? Oh my goodness, I love the back and forth and your smiling faces.
I was picking pop cans up on the side of the road, and Amy pulled up in her car. We actually met through Profiling Evil, and it has been just a rich relationship. I call Amy often, and we talk through things. She calls me often, and we talk through things, and it has just been a mutually wonderful experience. Or I guess I better ask you if it's been a mutually.
Yes, but the way it was, here's the thing. Here, this is what I remember. Mike had like all of 5 people on his, account, and it was about the B.O.L.O case. And I'm not going to give up the ghost on what my theory, which is still my theory, but I said something ain't right out there with this relationship of Lori and Alex. Let's just put it that way. So I typed to Mike because I didn't want to put it on the comments because I thought that would be inappropriate for the world to see. So I typed to Mike and I said, hello, I'm concerned about this aspect, blah, 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 blah. And then I signed my name and I said, I'm an MD. And then he wrote me back. Do you remember this? You probably don't even remember this one. And you were like, wow, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. He says, well, I think we need to talk more about this. Where did you get this idea? So that's how then you and Chris and I got on the phone and the Zoom. And that's how Yeah,
and actually, if I remember right, Amy, you're not a TV watcher. You jumped on, and you actually were a little bit surprised that there was some sound reasoning behind some of the discussion going on.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Okay.
It's been great, right?
So Sherry Shelton would like to know, I'm sure that we would all like to know, Mike, do you think that there will be an arrest in the Summer Wells case soon?
Oh, wow. I have no idea. And you know me, I hold the cards close to the vest when it comes to investigations. So, folks, you know me, I wait and let the right people say what's going to happen. And that's the sheriff.
Yeah. I think we've all kind of watched Suzanne Morphew's case unveil in front of us, and everybody in the YouTube community started to grow during that time. And it felt like everyone was frustrated with law enforcement. But now that the hearings are happening, we're realizing, oh, they were doing their job. Right. So I think this is another important time where we just hope that they know how to do their job too, which we're sure they do. LV, thank you.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Annalise, Dr. Amy, can you be my BFF?
Where do you live? Where do you live? Do you live on the East Coast?
That's awesome.
All right, let's see here. Everybody, again, this these donations and super chats and everything, the donate button is going toward a tombstone for a family that lost a brother 36 years ago, that we're helping give them a place to mourn and to have their brother not physically but mentally buried for them. So all these donations have been fantastic. In fact, let me refresh our PayPal real quick and see if we have anything that's coming through there. But while we do that,
while you're doing that, Skylar, I'm just going to say, folks, we really do need your financial support on this one. We do not ask for that at Profiling Evil, so we're asking tonight. It is expensive to buy a plot and a headstone, and we are going to cover whatever that cost is. But getting your help would certainly be great. And aloe vera, the monks are doing great. The abbot and I spoke just a few days ago, and people are taking care of them. Folks, if you don't understand that question, the monks need to have someone bring food to them. They can't go out and purchase their own, and so we do that. So thanks.
I saw that.
Buddhist, but I do think they're awesome.
Yes, I was just. It's funny that I was just going to mention this question.
Good. See, I'm pretty good at my job.
Yeah, you are.
So Serendipity would like to know if Dr. Salerno could speak into the psychology behind how the Morphew girls are handling things.
Okay, I think this is sort of a dramatic thing to say. I'm not saying that they're going through this, but the God, can you guys help me here? Not the Denmark thing, but when somebody like Patty Heard. Stockholm syndrome, the Stockholm syndrome, where you identify with your abuser in a way. And I'm not saying that they have full-blown Stockholm, but what I am saying is that for any child, the mouth or the hand that feeds them from the day they're born, from the hand that holds them, pays their tuition, kisses their boo-boo, it's very difficult to separate your feelings about that caregiver, even if that caregiver was really cruel. And I think they've lost their mother clearly, and they're about to lose their dad. What was the question? The psychology. I think any child, and we're all children, no matter what our age is, we are all children. We want to believe in the love and the goodness of our parent. That's the psychology. And I think that they will need years of supportive counseling.
Yeah, and we can't lose aside of the fact that they've lost mom, and now they're facing losing dad through this process. That is too much to ask of two girls, even though they may be adults by age. They are still children that have lost an awful lot. And so, all of our prayers need to go out in their behalf. So.
Thank you to our chat for telling me I missed one. So I went and found it. So Jody, she was, I believe, the one that asked about her son starting to show some of the same narcissistic behaviors as her husband. So, or this is going off of that. So my husband is a narcissist, and it's hard to live with it. He would never agree. Oh, this must be a different one. He would never agree to coinciding. Is there anything else that can help? So probably counseling, maybe.
Counseling.
Yeah.
Counseling.
So what are our thoughts there? If
well, you want my real answer?
Yes.
I think that if you are in a situation that is unhealthy and you know that you need a marital counselor or a family counselor, and the spouse is drawing the line in the sand and they are absolutely unwilling to participate in that, then it's time to say goodbye.
And
I know that was very quick,
Well,
but
thank you. And Jody, thanks for that question. I mean, it boils down to getting counseling, getting help if you have a faith tradition that you follow, getting help there, and also getting a role model of a male that is good to follow, because that really needs to happen in the life as well.
and I guess I shouldn't have said goodbye to the relationship, because maybe it's not an abusive relationship. Maybe he's just self-centered. So you're right. He's get help, but maybe not leave the relationship.
Yeah.
So DA, thank you for the donation. Julie Zeich as well. Thank you for the donation. Let It Be Summer. Thank you so much. We had Shelly T in PayPal with a kind donation. Cherry Freeman, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. I'm sorry, excuse me. D Flippit. Thank you from Montreal, Canada. Love your channel.
Thank you, D. That's so kind.
DD Burns, $10 super sticker. Thank you, thank you. Let's see. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm trying to catch up on these. A lot of them came in at once here. Miss Marple. So here's a question: do you think Candace hit Summer because Dawn either showed interest or was showing interest in her sexually?
And that's speculation, right?
Yeah, it's a big I don't know, I think, right, everyone?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know how you come up with did Candace do anything at this point, but that's me.
Definitely something to think about, but not to set your heels into.
Yeah, I mean, these are all such good possible questions, and that's the thing, folks. I mean, there are so many possibilities. That's why we have to think about what are the probabilities, and the probabilities need to be supported. And can't make up a decision until we have more facts. So
yeah, that's one thing that I notice on Profiling Evil is we don't ever start with a theory and stick to it. We kind of just let every theory come and just get discussed. That's, I think, what Mike teaches is investigations 101 probably. Rebecca McClellan, thank you so much. Profiling Evil, and Amy Salerno, much love from North Carolina.
Thank you so much.
The Tar Heel State. It's the Tar Heel State.
Let's see here.
I thought it was the Andy Griffith State.
And Gomer Pyle.
Cindy Target, thank you, Mike. Have you heard about the Wells cult out of 9F, Wells, Texas? Oh, out of
no, but Cindy, evidence room. Send us some info. I love to look into cults, as you all know. So those are my people.
Well, let's rephrase that. Maybe somebody will cut that and put a video out of you saying that. Okay, let me grab a question here. Let's see here. Man, lots of great things. People are just chatting with each other, which we love to see. But now's a good chance to ask some questions.
Yeah, folks, what we're doing on the donations tonight is going to help a family. Last week we spent 2 days in the field with Adventures with Purpose. Prior to that, with Adventures with Purpose, Sam the Adventure Man, and the Diesel Brothers, we were recovering vehicles from a mountain lake. We recovered a vehicle at 110 feet. It was an incredibly tough recovery. The vehicle actually broke free twice before we finally got it surfaced. The Bureau of Reclamation was just about fit to be tied by the time we finally got that thing out of the water. But we did not find the boys that we were looking for, although we found more evidence in support of that case. We're trying to help that family not only get the boy declared dead, but get him a proper burial spot. And we've had some wonderful people step up tonight. We still need more to make that happen. Incredibly expensive to even bury when there's no body. So thank you.
Well, we are going to, I think, wrap up in just a few minutes here, everybody. So get your questions in as you can. Back to PayPal, Virginia M. Thank you so much for your donation. A question again. Oh, here's I don't think I could do it twice. Say your name right. But if Candace, Dawn, or Grandma did anything, would they not fail the polygraph test?
So polygraphs are difficult. Some people are able to be able to get through the polygraph. Sometimes medication makes that possible for people to be inconclusive. So it really boils down to a lot of questions around how the test was administered and what was administered. But bottom line is, it's not a legal document. It's not a legal thing that you can take into court. It's just another investigative tool to help guide that investigation along.
There were two real quick things I wanted to add on that, because there were some other questions back a week or so ago about if somebody is like a heroin addict or if they're on Suboxone or methadone maintenance. Does that affect the lie detector test or polygraph? And I just wanted to mention that if you're obviously if you're intoxicated or if you're high on heroin or cocaine, etc., that totally affects the polygraph test. But if somebody is in a maintenance program, whether it's methadone maintenance or a Suboxone, which is what we use now, that's less addictive and less overdosey potential, they can submit themselves to a polygraph test.
Okay.
I just wanted to.
Sorry, let me get this one real quick. Kristen, can you tell us approximately how much we've raised? We are at just over $1,500.
Oh my word!
That is amazing. Thank
How
you all so
amazing!
much.
How much? What is the goal? 2,000?
It's like 2,500, I think, is what it's going to cost us. But we will step up on our side to cover the remainder. But everything you guys do is just incredibly helpful. This is so cool. And I do have to do this real quick. I have to mention I'm not in a pink room. Okay. I've at the start there were a lot of pink hearts, a lot of comments about my pink room. I have a cool little light that changes colors, and my computer over here is a red light that shines on a gray wall, so it turns pink. And this color back here is always changing. So it's not a pink room, even though I wouldn't be ashamed of a pink room.
Well, my dad always wore pink ties, and he said a real man should not be afraid of pink.
That's right.
The People's Team for Justice, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Let me see if I missed anything else. I love my creative spirit. It absolutely helps. Oh, we do we have a surprise guest here?
We may. We're going to give one more second to see. I'm not seeing a face, so.
Okay. So we're going to drag this out just for a little bit longer, everybody.
So can I just, here's the thing. No, somebody asked, Laura L at 9:25 p.m. asked that Don Wells told Chris McDonough that Don himself would, quote, constantly cuss at the boys for leaving the doors open. And the question the person asked is, does cussing the boys out qualify as verbal abuse under the law? And what I would say is name calling a child is emotional domestic violence. It is cruel, and it hits the core of a child's spirit.
Yeah.
I also want to say that when I counsel patients, and some people do believe in corporal punishment, there are whole guidelines that the American Academy of Pediatrics has on corporal punishment, but I want to go on record to say that the worst place a parent or a caregiver could ever smack a child. Does anybody know? I'm going to test Mike here. What is the worst place? And you can dig.
Child?
Yeah, hit a child.
Anywhere.
No. Mike?
You know what? I mean, I'll be a dummy either way. I have no idea.
The face.
Well, yeah.
Think about it. You get up in the morning, you go to the bathroom. What is the first thing you do when you look in the mirror? You don't look at your fingernails, right? You don't look at your hand. You look at your face. Yes, the face. Because the face, especially for children, is sort of the center of their identity. And when you hit somebody in the face, it is cripplingly damaging psychologically and physically, obviously.
Right.
Oh, so somebody answered face?
Lots of people. They're a lot smarter than we are.
Good. Yeah.
I think. Sorry, everyone. We're stalling while we're trying to get.
Yeah.
something here.
So let's just see if we can get audio on this, Skylar.
Serendipity. Tyler's saying something. Tyler, you might need to chat it to us. We don't know what you're talking about back there. But real quick, I think about my oldest, who's a very sensitive kid, a very thoughtful, sensitive kid. And just thinking if anybody ever did anything to her, I think I would go full Liam Neeson Taken. And there are kids out there that, like my boy, I can do anything to my boy and he'll get up laughing and fight me. Right. But my oldest, like, you say anything like, oh, why'd you do that? And it hits her to her core, even if it's just a, why did you do that? Mm-hmm. And so I know there are kids out there that suffer from that, and anything can bring them down. Carolyn Johnson, may the peace that passes all understanding be with this family.
Oh, amen.
That is so nice. And then Atlas with $5 as well.
Skylar, let's try to bring in Thunder, and I don't know that we're going to be able to get it. She's not going to come in on visual, but maybe we can get audio.
They need to connect to something. We can't bring her in until she's connected on audio.
Okay, then it's not going to work. I think she can hear though. We're going to note that it's not going to work. So we'll get her on next week, and we'll bring her up to speed later tonight about what's going on. Doc, this is the sister of the young boy who went missing, and we wanted to let her know what the numbers were looking like tonight. We'll get her back on. She can actually hear us and what's going on. There's a little bit of talking back and forth in the back room, so we'll see if there's an option there. And
quick PayPal update while we're doing that. Danette J and Sherry E, thank you so much, and then Marcy Crizzle on here as well. You all are amazing. I think we could bump up our rolling total to probably over 1,600 at this point.
Wow,
that's great. Well, so we'll probably miss her. We'll give the back office just 1 minute to see if they can connect and get an audio on this, and if not, we'll bring Thunder back on later. Folks, if you would, watch the video today that we posted on the Lloyd Reese and David Jaramillo case. There you'll be able to see kind of or get the story and see why this is so important to us. We'll have some additional videos coming out on the search itself and interviews with the sheriff, with the parks rangers and others. I think you'll enjoy that. And to answer this question on Randy Leach, we actually continue to talk about and work on the Randy Leach case. We actually had someone out searching a particular area this week, and we still have not been able to do anything to help find Randy Leach, but we haven't stopped either. So, let's see. I'm going to put her on speakerphone. The back office just gave me an incredible idea. Why don't I just call her and put her on speakerphone? This is why I'm stuck in the 60s still. So we're going to do it this way. Thunder?
Hi.
How are you?
How are you?
Good. Can you hear Dr. Salerno?
What?
No, I'm asking Dr. Salerno.
Oh, I can hear Thunder.
Okay. So Thunder.
Yeah.
I have Dr. Salerno on and Skylar from the back office. We've just had the privilege of spending the last hour talking about a number of cases, and we focused on Lloyd and David's case. Particularly, we asked for donations tonight to help pay for Lloyd's burial spot and stone, and we wanted to let you know that tonight we've raised about $1,600. So we'll let you talk to the people.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Isn't that wonderful?
Oh my gosh, everybody, you guys are amazing. Thank you.
It is an absolute honor, and I wish you're going to have to go back and watch the live when you get off of work, and read the many comments from people that are in there, and everyone who is listening. I hope that you will weigh in for Thunder and the Lloyd Reese family. Thunder, Amy, at age 7, begged her older brother not to go to the lake. He went over to the local grocery or corner market and stole a candy bar for her. And gave it to her and promised her he would be home, and he never made it home. And Thunder has been looking for 36 years for her brother.
Oh. Oh.
So Thunder, I put you on the spot. Someone just put another $10 down. And she said, Thunder, I lost my brother not long ago. I know what it means to see them leave one last time. May all of us that care bring you a little peace.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Oh. Bless your heart.
Oh,
So, Thunder, next week for choir practice, we'll get your computer situation figured out, and we'll have you come on, and we'll push this over the top and get the rest of this work done and get a stone ordered.
you guys are all so amazing. Thank you so much.
We're honored to do it. We love you.
I love you guys, all of you.
Oh, that's so sweet.
All right, kiddo. Have a great night, and we'll talk soon, okay?
All right, thanks, Mike. So
All righty.
much.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Oh, that's nice.
There you go, folks. I can't think of a better way to end the night than to tell all of you what a huge difference. And I hope there's not many dry eyes out there. Thank you so much.
Sorry, I hate to add this, but I was going to give 2 of these away. Do you remember this?
Oh, yes, folks, we have a couple of, go ahead, Doc, explain this, and then we'll invite anyone to reach out.
Okay. So I believe from experience that people who are in a domestic violence or an unstable relationship can't read a 500-page book. It just, forget it. And this workbook, it's called the Power to Break Free workbook. And it's very thin. It's very easy to use. And I would like to gift 2 of these workbooks. And the way we wanted to do it is for anybody in the chat that is going through any sort of a difficult time in their relationship, trying to get out of an abusive relationship. I would ask you guys to explain how they would get in touch with you, and then I can mail. I'm going to give 2 away. If more than 2 people have a problem, we're going to have to do a lottery or something. Can you explain it better than I?
Just email us at profilingevil@gmail.com. And for anybody interested in this giveaway, and I'm sure we're going to have more than 1-2 people, Amy. So we'll just have to do a raffle or something, or we'll send them on to you and let you decide. Okay.
But anyway, I wanted to do this for you guys because I know there are a lot of folks out there that are struggling. And I think part of Profiling Evil's mission is not only to figure out about a crime, but it's also to figure out how do we prevent people from becoming victims of crime. And hopefully something like this will help folks.
Yep, absolutely. Awesome. Dr. Salerno, thank you so much. It is always just such a treat to visit with you. Skylar, thanks for your help in the back office. And from all of us at Profiling Evil, thanks and have a great evening.
It was wonderful. Thank you so much for the privilege to come.
Thank you.